guys, and welcome to another episode of Watch and Roll. Here I have two divers from Casio, one on the lowest end and the other one on the highest end of the brand, each from the total opposite side. The question is, how does the lowest end Casio diver compare to the highest end Casio diver? The Duro comes with a resin strap, while the Cachalot comes with this very good Durasub strap, which is frankly amazing. The material feels amazing. It also has a machine high intensity titanium buckle. Unfortunately, the strap on this Cachalot is just too big for me. Right now I have them both on these diving straps from Vortex. There's multiple reasons why. Number one, these straps have a proprietary spring bar, which is 2.5 millimeters, just like the ISO certified spring bars that you usually see on Japanese divers. Those bars are tested to hold 90 pounds of force together by pulling each strap from each other. If you want reliability, especially to go swim, dive, jet skiing, surf, etc., definitely you want to wear something like that. So these spring bars are also 2.5 millimeters, but they have a quick release system, but it is not a conventional quick release lever. It is designed in some way to be adapted to this type of hole having an exit. This means that you can remove the spring bars easily to install your ISO certified 2.5 diver spring bars. If you have a Swiss diver, which spring bars are thinner, you can also wear these spring bars on those divers because the tips of the bars are thin enough for Swiss divers. Number two is a 4mm thick strap, being more reliable. Number three, it has flat holes and a flat pin buckle, which increases micro adjustments while being stronger. It's a matter of physics. A regular pin buckle can be more prone to pierce the hole, while on a flat pin buckle, by having more area, the force is dispersed throughout the area, making it less likely for the holes to break. Number four, I went snorkeling last year with my Seiko Marine Master on its original strap, and I noticed that the strap would disengage from the keeper. It was a little annoying since it would catch onto things and frankly a little worrying. This strap has a locking system where the keeper connects to the hole of the strap. I think this is important on a diving strap. When you surf or you just do any type of water activity where your watch is constantly blasted with basically hydrostatic force, very strong waves that will affect your keepers and your spring bars. So yeah, last and not least, this strap does wear exceptional on smaller wrists like mine because there is no slack sticking out. So yeah, I'll leave the link on the description if you want to check this out. The Casio Duro is one of the most popular watches from the Casio brand. Released in 2011, Casio introduced what it seems to be the most affordable diving watch. With a screw-down crown, a screw-down case back, a rotating bezel, and 200 meters of water resistance, the Duro was a legit trustable diving watch just without an ISO certification. Loved by many and apparently free of controversy, the Duro represented a no-nonsense reliable watch that could actually be used for diving. On the other side of the brand, released in 2020, Casio Oceanus released their first diver's watch featuring a lot of high-end electronic specifications and packed with technology and engineering. The Oceanus Cachalot was the first ISO analog diver's watch with atomic reception capabilities, along with the analog G-Shock frogman. Let me get the measurements out of the way. The Duro has a diameter of 44 millimeters, while the Cachalot has a diameter of 45. The Duro has a thickness of 12, while the Cachalot has 15 millimeters. The Duro has a lug-to-lug of 50 millimeters, while the Cachalot has 52 millimeters. The Duro has a lug width of 22 millimeters, while the Cachalot has 22 millimeters too. For starters, the Duro wears nicer, of course, depending on your wrist. Some people have really thick wrists. So, other than that, what's the difference between these two watches? The response might be truly extensive. The price tag is not only very different, but the watches themselves are incredibly different. The distance between these two watches might be even greater than any other brand in their price tag. There's a difference between a $60 Seiko 5 and a $1,500 Seiko. But even that difference between the Seiko 5 and the $1,500 Seiko is not as far from each other as these two Casios. Both Seikos are automatic. They have similar steel. Both are automatic even though a 6R35 might be several step ups from an NH35. They both perform similar. They both have a certain durability. They both do the same, so to say. To begin with, the Casio Duro is basically the cheapest possible divers you can decently possibly make. This means that it is basically a true diving case with the tiny and most affordable quartz movement you can get just to make it work. The quartz movement in the Duro has a plain 3-year battery operating at minus plus 15 seconds a month with a date complication, and that's it. The Oceanus movement, on the contrary, it's a whole nother story. The Oceanus movement seems to be 50 years apart from the Duro in technological improvement. Made in the premium line of Yamagata, where only medal winners from Casio are allowed to work in, the Oceanus movement is of such complexity that it resembles a mechanical movement. Full of gears, the movement fully expands into the case. A conventional quartz movement such as the Duro has one motor that drives all the hands. On the Oceanus we have the 5624 movement, which is a high-end solar, atomic, Bluetooth, perpetual, high-speed multi-motor movement with finer gear trains that makes the action of the hands not only smoother but faster. This is sort of a high beat of quartz movements. This movement has tons of incredible engineering behind. For example, it is strategically constructed based on density of materials to place the gears and components in a certain sequence that makes the movement stronger and with a lower center of gravity. It does has a laser hand realign system and some G-Shock technology. Of course, it is packed with functions like a chronograph, day and date complication, a tight mode, DST, STD, section transmission disease. But yes, it does has it. A second time zone subdial, a PM AM indicator for the subdial, and the main time. It has an illumination capability and most important, an excellent dive mode. This dive mode makes this watch to set apart from the rest of the watch industry. On the dive mode, you start seeing elapsed time from 12 o'clock. Both the hour hand and the minute hand move together, and it's extremely legible and easier to read since you don't need the bezel on the dive mode. For this reason, you also don't need a lume bezel. When you're in dive mode, you can still read the time on the subdial, but it prioritizes the dive mode. This is quite something. So just the movement alone, there is a huge difference between these two. The Casio Duro is quite nice. They did an amazing job on the dial. The proportions might not be 100% perfect, but it looks great. Overall, it has a great identity. I personally love the marling on the dial, and I wish Casio, actually that's the correct way to pronounce Casio, is Casio in Japanese. I wish Casio brings us higher end watches under this concept. The alignments on these Duro are surprisingly spot on. No quality control issues at all, and the seconds hands hit the markers perfectly on this specimen. I had 2 other Duros in the past, and those had some misalignment issues. Something that I see often on Japanese divers like Seikos and Orients and even some Omega Seamasters that I have personally seen is when you align the minute hand with the 12 o'clock marker, the hour hands should point at the center of the hour marker, right? But many Seiko divers and Orient divers and even Omega divers are not perfectly aligned, apparently because there is something called the gear slack. Divers require a gear slack to perform better with temperature expansion and everything. Well, on this Casio Duro, the hour hand is 100% spot on, as well on the Oceanus. My question is, why can Casio do it even on the Duro, but we have issues on $600 Seikos? Anyway, the lume on the Duro is rather bad, while it is great on the Cachalot. It is not as bright as a high-end Seiko, but it is very good, just as bright as, let's say, an Omega Seamaster or Rolex Submariner, which have blue lume. The hour indices on the Duro are pressed from the back, while on the Cachalot they are applied. You can tell the difference in quality between the Cachalot and the Duro. The Duro has a beautiful royal blue dial, while we have a more matte dial on the Cachalot. Maybe because it needs to be a solar panel. A big difference here is with the handset. On the Duro, it is a regular, probably aluminum chrome plated handset, while on the Cachalot we have carbon hands, which are lighter and stronger. Just like on the Grand Seiko Divers Quartz, which uses titanium hands, the carbon hands are harder to manufacture and they offer a higher efficiency level. Being lighter, you use less energy and they move faster. We got a plain flat mineral crystal on the Duro, while on the Cachalot we have a beautiful thicker dome sapphire crystal with anti-reflecting coating on the inside. On the Duro, we have an aluminum bezel insert with good action. It is a little too tight, but it is very solid with a clicky feeling. On the Cachalot, we have a beautiful red and blue sapphire bezel with an amorphous diamond-like carbon black coating on the outside, and the action resembles more of a higher-end Seiko or an Orient diver bezel, having a little more of a continuous gliding action. Now, let me tell you, when I first got my first Cachalot, I got some issues with the bezel having some play between the case and the bezel. Apparently, these type of issues can be found on the first production. It is said that on many products, not just these, but like on brands, like any brand, the first production could have some issues and they fix them later on. My first Cachalot was a first production. So later on I replaced it and this new Cachalot bezel is just perfect. Now the material on the Duro is a regular 316L stainless steel with some polishing on the sides. It looks great and quite amazing for $45. On the Cachalot we have a high intensity titanium with a carbide coating. It has a better material, being lighter, way more corrosion resistant, and it's around 5 times stronger and scratch resistant than the Duro's steel. It goes on par with the Citizen Duratech. Not just the materials are better on the Cachalot, but the finishing is exceptional. And when I say exceptional, I mean Grand Seiko level. It is Salus polishing. That, by the way, it is not Saratsu. Saratsu just means silence with a salad. Yes, Saratsu means salad. No, Saratsu just means Salus with a Japanese accent. So whenever you hear Saratsu, all they are saying is Salus with a Japanese accent. A Japanese person, because they're not able to pronounce Salus, they would pronounce Saratsu. Saratsu. You get me now? You're welcome. But yeah, the machining and the finishing on this Cachalot is very sharp, and it's rumored that high-end Oceanus cases are finished by Grand Seiko. Now, look at the case back of these two divers. For some reason, Casio went with a regular screw-down case back on the back. Of course, on the back. What do you expect, the front? And they decided to have not 4 and not 6, but 8 screws on the Cachalot to ensure water resistance. It's just a little more interesting. I don't know you. Now, this is also something to know about. Both watches are 200-meter water resistant, but if you look at the Cachalot, it looks like it can take a whole lot more. The structure of the case back, the case itself, and the sapphire crystal being thicker. I did read on an Oceanus article that even the watch has 200-meter water resistant rating, the Cachalot has a design for saturation diving. I personally think water resistance is approached very differently with Japanese from Swiss divers. For example, I have seen 300-meter water resistant citizen divers that are fairly thin, that are not ISO certified, Don't you think Japanese divers could be easily 300 meters? Yes, they do. The G-Shock Frogman has been tested and it has reached more than 600 meters without a problem. We know that Japanese philosophy is to underpromise and underdeliver. No. Underpromise and overdeliver, right? Same with their accuracy. While the Swiss go farther with their promises, for example, a spring drive movement is rated to plus or minus 50 seconds a month, right? But what people actually get with it is something like 3 seconds a month. While on Swiss watches, or for example, let's just say the Rolex Submariner, which is plus or minus 2 seconds a day, you actually get something like plus or minus 2 seconds a day. You don't get a whole lot better than that. I personally believe if a Japanese diver can reach more than 300 meters of water resistance, if the actual physical object can actually do way more than 300, the Japanese would still stamp the 200-meter water resistance because that's their standard. They have those brackets of standards: 200 meters air gas, 300-meter helium gas, and no need for more. Of course, unless it's a helium gas slash saturation diver, which would need helium gas resistant capabilities. The crown action on the Duro is very good for its price, but it is smoother on the Cachalot. Of course, the Cachalot has a machine crown, but something special about that watch are the pushers. On conventional watches, such as regular G-Shocks and any chronograph Casios, on the manual, it specifies that the buttons should not be pressed underwater, even with double O rings which come in G-Shocks, because they cannot guarantee that water will not get inside your watch. And that's their standard with every other watch. Even on the Citizen Aquilon, the manual specifies that you should not press some buttons, except for the dive buttons. This Cachalot, along with the G-Shock Frogman, have special engineering to enable 100% underwater button operation. Honestly, both watches are great, and if you just want a reliable diver to beat around, how can anything beat the Duro for its price? You can actually go dive, surf, etc. with a Duro and you're perfectly fine. No wonder it has a big following. The Cachalot, on the other hand, is a technological wonder. It's more special. It looks like $1,000,000. It performs much better and it will last much longer. It just wears big on the wrist. And that is a big negative for many. Even that, I would pick the Cachalot over the Duro. That's me personally. But for $45 extra, there's just no reason to not keep both.